we had the great privilege of going to the Seahawks Rams game. What many people are saying is the game of the year. And I think that there's a few lessons in there about live broadcasting that we could talk about on this show. I think that there's a lot about teamwork and grit and resilience. You could go down and take a bunch of different angles. But Benji, first of all, I just want to thank you for taking me with you. But more than that, actually, I wanted to bring up something about your setup in terms of your ability to go there. So you were there to vlog, actually, which was pretty cool, right? You were invited by the Seahawks, and they had you vlog some food for your food channel, which makes sense. It's in line with your theme, and your topic was the food you get at the stadium. Is that going to become a full vlog? Is it going into Judy's vlog?
Yeah, it already went to Judy's vlog, but it could potentially be a food vlog as well. Of course, applying the new vlog method, the theme of my channel being food, the topic of this vlog being the food that I ate at the Seahawks game. So, yeah. And then in terms of my setup, you're asking what gear I used?
Well, I just wanted to bring up that, of course, as always, you're using your Osmo, which was really cool to see because it makes it it's not like very cumbersome to get into the stadium, for example. It's just grab and go. You set it up. Your mic sounds great, even with how loud I mean, literally, Seahawks are known for their loud fans, the 12s, right? And Mike sounded great the entire time. You were in giant crowds inside of these enclosed areas, which it still sounded great in. There was wind going all over the place. It still sounded pretty good. And you brought up something else, though, which I thought was interesting, which is something that kind of marries our two setups, which is mine being my iPhone and yours being your DJI Osmo, which is that you were using your new iPhone 17 Pro as a part of it. And you brought up that it's a very good complement to the DJI Osmo Pocket. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, why it's a good complement, what your setup looks like, and in that scenario, why you were using both.
Yeah, so obviously if you can use one device, it's always going to be easiest. But there's one downside to my favorite vlog camera, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which makes it so that I want to use my iPhone, which is the zoom. You can do a zoom on DJI Osmo, but the zoom is really just a digital zoom. It's just cropping into it, which I use all the time because it's 4K and you're able to crop in and it still will keep a certain level of quality. But at the game, for example, even though we had great seats, there were club seats right in the middle of the field, it's still really far for the Osmo to capture anything. So you're not going to get a lot of good visuals of the players, of the play. So I use my phone, which is the iPhone 17 Pro, which has great zoom, almost kind of freakishly really good. And then when the lights are all on, you can really pick up the players. So that's the number one reason why I use the iPhone. Secondly, I still think the Osmo is great all around for everything. If I'm picking one device, I'm still going to pick the Osmo for me personally. But man, the camera on the iPhone 17 Pro, I think in some ways is better than the Osmo. Maybe just, again, I don't know what it is about the processing that's happening behind the scenes, but it's so user friendly and I don't have to think about anything. I just pick the zoom or the lens I want to use. See, that's another thing too. I have multiple lenses. I have 3 lenses. So a good example would be even the wide angle. So the reverse is also true. I can go super wide and in a stadium, hard to capture the whole shot on the Osmo because I'd have to literally go back, even if I was in the back row, still not getting it from the comfort of my seat, I can go wide. So wide, zoomed up, that's a nice supplement to my Osmo. But also just the fact that now I'm using the the cloud, right? Yeah. So I actually have more room. Sometimes I run out of room, and if I don't have an SD card, extra one, and I don't want to delete, that's kind of like a backup for me. So, when you vlog as much as me, it's nice to have that secondary option, right? They say one is none.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I'm having just a different tool for a different function. That's why I'm using it.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about your Osmo as kind of being your gunslinging cowboy one. This is kind of like your sidearm. This is the other one that you have in your pocket that kind of fills in the gaps of your main weapon, so to speak. I mean, I think about how lucky kids are nowadays who have iPhones. I mean, so many kids have iPhones now, and just the quality of content that they can make just on their phone is incredible. There's actually a really cool moment, right? Because, I mean, spoiler alert, hopefully, I don't think you can really spoil football games, especially at this point.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. but Seahawks won, and it was a very dramatic win. And you were recording that final moment where you used one of the new features on the iPhone, which I had never seen anybody actually use in a situation like this, where you're recording what was on the field with your zoom lens, but then it was also simul recording the front-facing lens using your front-facing camera and using center stage. And if you can imagine the pandemonium in the stands when something like that happens, I mean, we're all celebrating. Benji's going all over the place. And if you watch it, first of all, you can see it very well because you can see the play. And at the same time, in the very, I think, bottom left-hand corner or something like that, you can see Benji's face and his reaction. And it kept him in the entire time because of that center stage feature. It's almost like having a gimbal on the front. So just lots of really cool little bits and bobs there.
Yeah, that was more for my socials. So
Yeah.
I wanted to do Instagram stories that could potentially be an Instagram Reels later. And I got this idea, funny enough, from another Seahawks creator, somebody that is a super fan of the team, has their own kind of platform with an audience, and they use it to get their reaction. And so I wasn't thinking about them in the moment, but I watched them do it, and I think, oh, this would be cool. Like, why not use it? The one downside, if that is one, you can't have the option to remove it. It's going to be superimposed into the video. But I thought, yeah, why not? Because half the reason you watch anything on social is because you want to see what this person's reaction is. And it just makes it much more relatable versus what everyone else usually does, which is they just take the shot of the play, maybe turn the camera back on them. Oh, that's what I normally do.
Yeah.
I will stop the recording and put it back on me or return the camera, but I can keep it in the recording. So other thing too is I want to capture the reaction of the whole stadium.
Yes, yeah.
Not just me and the people around me, but literally the whole stadium. And that's why I kind of liked it. But then you mentioned one thing. I thought like I was doing good at keeping myself in shot, but it might have been with center stage.
It's called
function.
center stage,
And
yeah.
it's all automated.
Yeah, Matt brought that up on the show last week, actually, where it's kind of like the Osmo, where it has the face tracking feature. It uses that mindfully. To be fair, you are the pro vlogger here, so I guarantee that your steady hand still came into play. But the iPhone was there to assist as well, right? Why not use that feature if you have it? Well, let's go ahead and get to some follow-up. Last week, we talked about, believe it or not, Adam Sandler's Netflix deal. And neutrally, you nailed it. I just wanted to add some timelines, but there's also an interesting tidbit as well. So in October of 2014, Netflix signed their exclusive deal with Sandler for a 4-movie agreement. They extended in 2017 and in 2020. Neutrally, you brought us some of the ones. They've got like The Week of, Murder Mystery, the Happy Gilmore 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Benji, I thought you would find this interesting. So he's made, I guess, 12 movies-ish, or at least 12 guaranteed movies through their contract. Viewers have spent 2 billion hours watching Adam Sandler movies on Netflix, which I think is kind of interesting. And so we talk a lot about watch time as such an important metric. And so when you hear the number 2 billion in terms of number of hours that Adam Sandler is getting to Netflix, what do you think?
Well, I think about my wife's 1 billion views, not hours, but 1 billion views on YouTube, and I think, she's not doing too bad. But I mean, I think that Adam Sandler has he made the right decision early on, and I don't know why he did it. It must have been a great payday, but he almost disappeared from the normal movie pop culture zeitgeist and really only showed up in Netflix. It's not like he was out of it completely, but it was a little bit earlier than people were thinking like, oh, let me go all in on Netflix. So for whatever reason, he made the decision to do it. And now, fast forward, I just watched this movie about it's George Clooney playing a famous A-list actor, right?
Oh, is this what was it? What was the movie called? Do you remember?
I forgot, but his agent is Adam Sandler.
Oh, interesting. This is not the one I'm thinking
Adam
of.
Sandler is his manager and agent, kind of, right?
Huh.
But the reason that I thought that was interesting is because, he hasn't missed anything from signing this deal. In fact, I'd say like he's as relevant, if not. The biggest thing is that he's stuck around.
Yes.
Not everyone sticks around and can sustain their Hollywood acting career for literally decades. We're talking 30 plus years. And he has, and arguably because he was signed to Netflix and he was in the digital landscape, not just the traditional landscape.
I totally agree with you. And, we're going to talk about that, the Netflix stuff a little bit later in the show, but having that draw back to Netflix is such an important thing. And it'll be a recurring theme on this show over the weeks as that becomes more and more important for Netflix. Another piece of follow-up here. Last week, we talked about the new features on Instagram that let you make your own algorithm a little bit. So just to catch everybody up, last week, Instagram released this feature where they let you basically type in a prompt, think about like ChatGPT, for example, and say, I want more content like X, or I want more content like Y. I want more Seahawks content in my feed. I want more sports content. I want more Creator Secrets content, of course. And the Instagram algorithm will listen in those scenarios. Benji, one of the things that you mentioned was that it reminded you a lot of search, actually. And I think that is something I want to talk about here because it's super important to me that this is something that is a proactive thing by users who might be using this feature. Now, we don't know how successful it'll be, but if you think about the algorithm on, let's say, TikTok, the very first thing that happens is that you open up TikTok and they show you a video. You have no choice. There's no real intention around what you're watching at that point. This is a way of adding a smidgen, I would say, of intention back into the feed experience on these platforms. And I want to kind of rewind a little bit to another example of this that I think is a powerful example on Spotify, believe it or not, that I think will extend over to these Instagram algorithms. You can even say it's kind of like it, and especially on YouTube. So on December 10th, Sarah Perez for TechCrunch says, Spotify announced Wednesday that for the first time, it's giving users more control over the streaming service's algorithm. The new tool allows users to describe what they want to hear in a personalized playlist that reflects the full arc of their taste, according to the company. That means that the playlist focuses not only on the songs that you like now, but your entire Spotify listening history from day one, something that differentiates the feature from other playlists, the company says. So just to recap that and say it in Sarah Perez words, basically what it's doing is it's looking through your entire history of everything you've listened to on Spotify, and it actually generates its own prompt, which is kind of interesting, and it makes it so that it traces your entire arc of listening. But this is built on a feature that is just like that Instagram algorithm thing that we just described. So there's this other feature that I'm saying it's built on is that you can go into Spotify and you can type in a prompt that gives you a playlist in return. So out comes the playlist, and it allows you to take that playlist and just run it basically like you did before. So it's kind of the same thing. It's not really adjusting the algorithm, but it is adjusting the playlist. But you can, here's why I think it might be interesting. So here's my theory. YouTube will benefit from features like this in the future. Say you get home at night, you open up the YouTube app, and the first thing that it shows you is a few recommended things, but you get scrolled to the end and maybe you've been waiting around for a minute and there's a carousel at the bottom and it says, speak into the microphone on your remote and say what it is that you think that you're interested in. Now, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to go out there. It's probably going to use the search function, which everybody knows is very important. It's going to kind of sequence them together, kind of understand the flow of things, look for content that'll work on a TV instead of on the computer, for example. And then it'll sequence them in an autoplay playlist that you can kind of get going. And so you and I have talked a lot about the idea of the old ranking competition kind of dying, especially as it comes to shorts, right? Like it's less and less ranking is a profitable kind of enterprise, which when I say ranking, I mean showing up first on the search list on YouTube. But if this thing supercharged by AI kind of becomes more and more popular, you might realize that ranking becomes important again, right? So right now, the sort of ranking that you're doing is on the algorithm. You want to show up first on somebody's algorithm, which is why we say build for the TV, because you want to show up on these people's TVs. But once you add these types of features, you can start to see, well, maybe you don't need to be the first one on the TV, but as you're known for saying, Benji, you can come second place. You can be the second recommended thing in the algorithm. So
first recommended thing after their intentional thing that they watched.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to hear more of your reactions to that idea. This is, again, just a theory about what might come to YouTube, but you can start to see all of these algorithmic platforms, including Spotify and Instagram and even TikTok to a degree, are building out these AI features that are letting you do this. First of all, do you think it'll come to YouTube? And second of all, do you see that as a return to form in terms of search?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, why would a platform, and we're talking about Instagram, correct?
Yes.
Let you search something or maybe kind of make an emphasis on the fact that this is a tool. You could always search on Instagram. That was no different. But now you can be more intentional, and they're saying, hey, do you know we have this function and we're trying to make your viewing kind of like experience better. It's because what they had before was getting worse. the great part of having an algorithm-led experience is you don't have to think. Usually it gives you exactly what you want, or at least that keeps you engaged and entertained until it becomes brain rot, right? We're just so addicted to swiping through. We maybe throughout the day grab a phone, and then what happens after that? You might quit it, or in my case, I deleted Twitter again, by the way. Right?
Really?
There was just no value in it after I got the value I got. And it's the same thing with TikTok. It could be with Instagram Reels. So for me, I think that's just a way to make the whole experience better by saying, hey, instead of just getting out of Instagram, or in my case, deleting Instagram because, you don't like that algorithm-led experience, why don't you control it and know that you can influence what it is that our algorithm feeds you? It's like we're telling them. That thing is this, the algorithm only listens to the data you give it, but it doesn't always know what you're thinking, even though it is freakishly correct. We see an ad or talk about something to our friend, and then next thing we know, it's like showing up on an Instagram feed. But there's a limitation because there's always thoughts that are never spilling out just to yourself. So this is your way of doing it. Secondly, will it, be a function on other platforms, like specifically YouTube? Well, it already is a thing on YouTube. That is what's so interesting to me. The biggest takeaway, why YouTube's so great, because it's still always a search-based experience. It's a search engine. People know there's a library of content. So even on shorts, I'd say if I had to bet money, I don't know, I've heard this about TikTok too. People are searching for shorts for a specific reason. I used to look for recipe videos on proper YouTube and watch 4-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute recipe. Now I'm watching on shorts. They're a lot shorter, obviously, but still I'm searching for it. So that behavior is very normal to YouTube. And, when you ask me, do you think they'll add it? Are you saying like on the shorts tab and make it more purposeful like they do on Spotify?
Yeah, I didn't think about the shorts tab actually, which is funny. But let me back up and then kind of answer your question, which is that if you think about the way that YouTube used to work, right? There's two ways to get to content, basically, two main ways once you go to YouTube. One is by searching, and one is by getting recommended content on the homepage. More and more over the past year, you and I have said ranking for search is harder and harder. There's more competition than ever before because of shorts. Shorts are outranked. I mean, I think that almost 100% of the time when I search for something on my phone, shorts comes up first. Is that true for you too? I mean, I see them almost like it's like the first, like at least 4, if not 6 or 8 when I search.
Yeah, almost every single time. It's almost rare that I see a proper YouTube video on my phone show up and I have to always swipe through.
And so from a creator's perspective, if you were competing for that first spot on YouTube, you would have had a regular, horizontal, maybe not long form, but at least a couple minute video before. And now you're being pushed down the list by one, sometimes below the fold, which is crazy to think about, right? And so you are suddenly losing out on all of that AdSense money. You no longer have the ability to kind of rank and play in that game because the people who make the shorts are going to do it. By the way, sorry, Benji. Sorry, Sean. But you guys advocating for that shorter and more condensed content in YouTube secrets was kind of the ultimate. This is kind of the ultimate expression of that, right? It's just kind of the natural thing that happened, right? But we have talked all year about long form content coming back in a way. And what I was trying to say is that these AI algorithms are doing it for short form content right now. But imagine being able to do that for long form content on YouTube, right? You could imagine that being the same way. So if you think about opening up, I don't know, something about the Marvel event next to Marvel Avengers movie on YouTube, and you hit autoplay, it might play another Avengers movie next, right? But it might not. But if you told it you wanted more Avengers content on YouTube, it could literally program your entire afternoon, hours of content potentially, just with a prompt that you're doing there. So that's kind of what I'm wondering about. I mean, not that you have any inside info, but you could see how that could bring search back for long form in a way that it's kind of not in play anymore, right?
Yeah, you're just guiding the algorithm where you want to go, because I think everyone would agree when you watch any algorithm-led platform, the experience is very random. It's
Yeah.
all over the place. At least for me, I don't know. Some people tell me, "Oh yeah, I only get sewing content because that's all I do." Maybe if that's all you watch, maybe because you and I and a lot of users like us watch a variety, it's always giving us variety. Versus, I mean, I think about this is something I do. So this tool will be something I use when I'm on YouTube washing the dishes and I want to listen to something. Usually it's something educational, something informational. Oftentimes it'll be world history or geopolitics. And I do pick, when I have to pick, even if I'm doing something, based off of the first thing I watch. So right now, what's going on? Russia and Ukraine. That's a geopolitic related type of subject right now. I don't want the next thing I watch to be some American politics commentary on, economics. I want something, again, covering Russia and Ukraine and what's going on, the updates. So in that case, I go through the suggestion and look for that. Sometimes I'll type in the thing that I'm looking for. So in this case, if you're saying this is something that they're testing on Instagram, they've already done it on Spotify to create playlists, I would totally use that because then it's smarter for me. Now, that's just me personally. But yeah, everyone could use it. The question is, why didn't they make it a thing before?
Yeah, that is a good. I think LLMs are a big reason why the kind of new AI wave
Because
enables
now
it.
they can do it.
Because now they can do it, and so this becomes something that you can do. And I think it's a good chance for us to distinguish between these AI-assisted platform features like this and AI-generated content, right? Because AI is getting applied to a bunch of different places. I think AI-generated content is kind of up in the air in terms of whether it's going to survive on these platforms, like long term. Well, maybe long term for sure, but like in the kind of medium term here, where we are in the messy middle. But that's an example of an AI-assisted platform feature where the platform is built using these AI tools, and it's enabling these new ways to keep users coming back because they kind of get more control over it. Now, an example of AI-generated content is something that happened this week, by the way, which is that YouTube shut down channels that were using AI to create fake movie trailers watched by millions and millions of people. Did you hear about this?
No.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and read from Jake Cantor at Deadline. They broke the story. There's two channels here. So the first one is called Screen Culture, and the second one is called KH Studio. So they were approached for comment. They are based in India and Georgia, respectively, and here's the story behind it. Earlier this year, YouTube suspended ads on Screen Culture and KH Studio following a Deadline investigation into fake movie trailers plaguing the platform since the rise of generative AI. These channels later returned to monetization when they started adding, quote, fan trailer, parody, and concept trailer, end quote, to their video titles. In recent months, however, these caveats disappeared, prompting concern for the fan-made trailer community. YouTube's position is that the channel's decision to revert to their previous behavior violated its spam and misleading metadata policies, and that resulted in their termination. Screen Culture founder Nikhil P. Chowdhury said that his team of dozens of editors exploited YouTube's algorithm by being very early with fake trailers and constantly iterating with their videos. For example, Screen Culture had created 23 versions of the trailer for the Fantastic Four by March, some of which outranked the official trailer in YouTube search results.
Yeah.
More recent examples include HBO's new Harry Potter series and Netflix's Wednesday. So, what do you think about that?
Oh, yes. It's a growing pain, and it was inevitable. I love watching movie trailers. It's like a thing I do. But what's the problem with movie trailers? They don't tell you what you want to know, and they don't show you what you want to see. Well, if you're somebody that understands that psychology and you create a parody or even just like a realistic version and you do give them the things, like there's a scene in the original Avengers Endgame where they showed the feet of the people walking towards Thanos. And the big question was, who are these Marvel characters? Is it the Hulk? Is it whoever? I mean, you would know who the Hulk is. And they don't reveal it because they want you to see the movie and who that. But can you imagine, like, if you've got AI and generative video tools at your fingertips, you could just totally create it. And maybe you could throw wild cards in there, right?
Yes.
Like characters that just you never think would be in there. And I, watching the trailer, could really care less if it's real or not. It's just so entertaining.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the nature of YouTube.
I mean, that was the big takeaway for me, that they created like 20 of these videos, right? And that they had watched, like literally, like the guy who got banned is basically saying, yeah, we hacked the YouTube algorithm by just flooding the entire thing and then like getting millions of views that are going to outrank the regular one. Like there's a search story in there. There's an AI story in there. There's an algorithm story in there.
I said this
a
month or two ago. I said the problem with AI generated content is it can be infinite. And ultimately, not all 20 will rank or be valuable or go viral, but it only takes one. And if it's AI generated, it's probably 10x, if not 100x easier to create it. And that's just one team, right? Or one channel. Imagine hundreds, if not thousands, doing that on any one niche or genre of content. Tons of competition. And that's why even if you're not a big fan of AI content as a creator, you have to pay attention and do the thing that they can't do. So this is the first time I'm hearing that not only AI generated content is beating the real content, but that YouTube is banning it for whatever reason. I don't know if you mentioned what the reason was. I think in this case, there's some copyright or trademark things that you have to consider, even though it's
huge trademark
parody, right? Yeah.
It also said, they say specifically here that YouTube did it based off of their misleading metadata policies, right? So they were okay when they were called fan trailers, is what they said, or parodies. YouTube was okay with it. But as soon as they removed those to kind of like basically impersonate the main trailer, they went back. I'm actually curious, how do you feel about YouTube enforcing those policies? I mean, this is a hot topic in terms of like YouTube allowing AI content versus not. I know that we know people who have AI content and people who are partially using AI content and people who hate AI content. So I'm curious about what your thoughts are about YouTube's approach.
I think it's smart to nip it in the butt early so it doesn't grow into this thing that it gets out of their control. Right or wrong, because what I can see is, in this case is a good example, but it could get abused really badly to the point when you start like shutting down channels. Then the question is, why are you shutting down this channel and not that channel? Start early, right? Even if you just have a grain of a reasonable, like support to do it. And then it just becomes like something you have to deal with individually on a channel versus it becomes like the whole community is backlash and, maybe going to another platform. So I don't like AI content. I'm like old school in this case. I want it to be as real as possible. Part of it is because I'm already getting to the point where I don't know. Like Matt, my friend, says, "Oh no, you can always tell by the voice and a little bit of the video if there's like mistakes." But sometimes it fools me, or I'm in a mode where I don't care.
How would you know if you didn't know? Does that make sense? Like, how would you know if you were tricked?
And that's me, who's probably super sensitive and aware and kind of like understands this is out there. Think about the older generation that doesn't have a clue about AI. Maybe has never heard of it, and then sees something wild and thinks it's the truth, and then they like have a belief in their mind. I guess this is why people don't like misinformation or something that's misleading. But this is even worse than that, because you can make up anything. I saw this thing just today, Jimmy Kimmel reporting on Russia, and it went viral. And I don't know if it was today. I'm saying the coverage about it went, and it was all AI generated. It was fake. Yeah. And so it looked real. People believed it, and it wasn't. It was just AI created,
Well, no surprise that Benji wants something organic here. There is another interesting angle here, actually, that I think you'll be. So we talked about there being a search thing, an AI generated thing, an algorithm thing. How about a AdSense thing as well? Our deep dive, this is again, let's see, Jake Cantor from Deadline. Our deep dive into the fake trailers revealed that instead of protecting copyright for these videos, a handful of Hollywood studios, including Warner Bros., Discovery, and Sony, secretly asked YouTube to ensure that the ad revenue from the AI-heavy videos flowed in their direction. The studios declined to comment. So again, just to summarize, these studios that are eventually trying to fight the fact that these things are AI are basically saying, They secretly told YouTube, it's okay if you leave these fake Fantastic Four things up, but we just get all the AdSense money. So they just took all the AdSense money for themselves, basically, from these channels. Isn't that crazy?
Well, it's their platform. They get to make the rules. And yeah, that's one of the downsides. See, the economics is what kind of balances this all out. I do believe there's going to be a whole group, or if not like a whole kind of generation of creators that don't care about that, and they like the attention, because there is value in that. There's value, right? Say you have your own product that you're selling. I don't know what the rules are in terms of FCC or, trademarks in regards to like using someone else's likeness, or in this case, like a IP, and then selling your own products. But most people will stop when they can't justify the cost of it, because there is a cost, right? At least someone's time, if not in this case, a whole team of editors, and you have to pay for the AI. So I like that they're like, hey, yeah, go ahead and make it. We're going to take the money. And then it's like, whatever you can leverage that content to do afterwards, but it doesn't pencil out.
It's funny you bring up the idea of these kind of likenesses and the trademarks around these things, because one of the companies, I bet you can guess the company that was not okay with it and did not necessarily want the AdSense revenue. Can you take a guess?
Disney?
Absolutely. It's Disney. Again, Jake Cantor. Disney properties feature prominently on Screen Culture and KH Studio. The Mouse House sent a cease and desist letter to Google last week, claiming that its AI training models and services infringe on its copyright on a massive scale, which brings us to the next story, which is that Disney and OpenAI made a deal together. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
So just to recap for those of you who haven't been following along, Disney basically went and sent a bunch of cease and desist orders to a bunch of different places, including Gemini and Google, including these, I guess in this case, it would have been YouTube and KH House and Screen Culture. But here's from the Wall Street Journal. Disney is making a $1 billion investment in OpenAI and will allow the AI platform to use its characters and properties to generate short user-prompted social videos. Disney's 3-year licensing deal will let users generate videos using Sora, OpenAI's short-form AI video platform, of more than 200 Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and Pixar characters. A curated selection of these short videos will be available to stream on Disney+. Disney and OpenAI announced the deal a day after Disney sent a cease and desist letter to Google, accusing the tech giant of infringing copyrights on a massive scale, demonstrating the carrot and stick approach it is taking to artificial intelligence. Alphabet's Google is the biggest tech company to incur Disney's wrath for allegedly using copyright material to train its AI systems and allowing these tools to output material that violates copyrights. The Disney letter includes dozens of images and screenshots of videos created with Google's Gemini, Nano Banana, and VO apps featuring Disney-owned characters like Darth Vader, Homer Simpson, and Spider-Man. OpenAI will compensate Disney to use its characters in Sora, according to a person with knowledge of the matter. The companies didn't disclose financial terms of the arrangement. In addition to its $1 billion investment, Disney is getting warrants to buy more stock in OpenAI at its current valuation of $500 billion. So they are telling some people to not generate. They are telling other people to generate. In this case, Sora gets it, which brings us back to a big topic on this show, which is that we talked about Mark Cuban a long time ago. We talked about Sam Altman becoming characters as parts of Sora. Now it's going to be Mickey Mouse and, I don't know, Darth Vader, which is crazy.
So are they going to control the type of content? What if it becomes cringy and kind of extreme outside of the IP rules? Every single property that they have, whether it's Mickey Mouse, a Marvel character, or like in this case Darth Vader, there's certain ways to present it. And I know this is kind of a thing in the products licensing. So when you use a character, they have certain guidelines for how to use it. Well, Sora, it seems like it's like Pandora's box. Just it could be anything. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm not familiar with Sora. I don't use it anymore. I don't even pay attention to it. I think that it's so difficult because this is my experience using AI video generated tools. Even when they have rules of what you can and can't create, it's like it doesn't follow them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and there's only so much that they can really do in terms of the algorithm. By the way, Sora does have those features, and it does work to some degree, but I can guarantee you that Disney's not going to have 100% control of the way that these characters are used.
So what? It only takes one bad piece of content, and who takes the blame? Is it going to be Sora and OpenAI? Is it Disney? Is it the user? It's going to happen. So I guess the one thing is, why not have a place where people can use it rather than trying to remember, if you have a trademark or copyright, you have to police it. You have to protect it. So having a place where it's all being done. And of course, Sora's not like, we'll work with you, and then they do nothing. They probably are working overtime to kind of make it realistic for them to operate some kind of like IP agreement.
Yeah.
So it doesn't endanger the integrity of the characters and their IP. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't like it because it makes unlimited amounts of content, and it only takes, well, number one, it's unfair to the creators. Now that's a whole nother discussion. Is that unfair in the grand scheme of things? But of course, who do I prioritize? I prioritize the creator. So I'm going to always think about you guys and what is going to be good and bad for you. But at the same time, I'm a realist.
Yeah.
If it's something people want and people can do, it's going to happen. So also don't, put your head in the sand and think it's not going to happen. Well, it's going to happen. It's already happening. So even like the likeness of people.
Yeah.
Even though you're not supposed to do like identical things, I mean, this goes to deep fakes and whatever, it's happening and it's just going to get worse.
You're reading my mind because I'm taking a lot of inspiration of this from, you should check out Ben Thompson at Stratechery. It's unfortunately behind a paywall, but he has a great analysis of this. And I just want to read a little bit from it for you because there's two really interesting angles, one of which is the one that you brought up, Benji, about exactly how scaled this AI-generated content is. So he says, one big advantage of owning these franchises, he's talking about Disney, by the way, owning things like Mickey Mouse and Star Wars and things like that, is their value is independent of the individual actors. This helps Disney ensure that they can retain a greater share of the profits generated by their copyrighted characters because there isn't a human who can hold them hostage. He's talking about their animated characters, by the way. Or to put it another way, Disney is, more than any other Hollywood studio, the most tech-like in its economics. It has tremendously valuable assets that it can leverage again and again at zero marginal cost. So one of the things he's basically talking about here is that you can use Mickey Mouse. And by the way, they actually did not license the voices to OpenAI. And I don't know how that's going to work necessarily. But one thing that you can do basically is you can generate these things. And if you just keep going and going and going, then guess what? Disney gets all of the upside, assuming that they get some cut of the thing. Disney is known actually throughout history to be a huge innovator when it comes to new technologies. And so this might be one of the reasons why they're doing this.
Also, they're huge on licensing.
Yeah,
so getting other
IP.
people, protecting their IP. But what I'm saying is getting other people to do the work and utilizing their properties, but they still make money off of it. So think any kind of products like a lunch box, apparel, even like advertisements, you can use them potentially. I'm trying to think of where that would make sense. And then you just pay Disney a fee for using it. You follow their guidelines, and then you get the advantage of that recognized IP, like a Mickey Mouse or one of their other characters. But then you have to pay, the big Mickey up at Disney headquarters, whatever they charge for that IP usage, and they're I mean the best at it, arguably.
Yeah.
You know who else is really good though? Sanrio. Do the research on this. Sanrio and Pokemon and Disney. Guess who the top? I forgot what the number is. Out of those three, guess who made the most revenue from their IP?
I'm going to guess Sanrio, actually.
It's Pokemon.
Is it really?
And who's second?
Sanrio.
And then Disney.
That's crazy.
I'm surprised. I wonder if, my theory is Pokemon is a given just because of the cards and just the popular Pokemon, both on the content, but also the products. And then it's going to be obsessive. People are literally gambling for Pokemon. The Sanrio one, I'm guessing they went low cost value. Disney, I bet you, charges a lot. So it's more premium licensing agreements versus Sanrio is on everything.
That's
not in a bad products. I've seen it all. It's nothing was crappy, but they were on everything. Sanrio in the last 2 years, because I think they celebrated 50 or 75 years. I know companies who did Sanrio, Hello Kitty specifically. So anyways, fun fact that you think Disney is the biggest, but no, Pokemon and Sanrio, to a certain degree, products wise or branding wise, I think is bigger at the moment. Yeah.
But it's funny that you talk about creators because Bob Iger actually, just to go back to Disney here, Bob Iger actually literally said something specific about this. So you ready for his quote? This is from the Hollywood Reporter. He says, "We are not including the name and likeness, nor are we including character voices. So in reality, this does not in any way represent a threat to creators at all," Iger continued. "In fact, the opposite. I think it honors them and respects them, in part because there's a license fee associated with it. The other thing it does is enable us to be comfortable that OpenAI is putting guardrails essentially around how these are used." By the way, Ben Thompson also says to that, that's one way to interpret it. The other way is to look at it and say, hey, Disney's like, I'm not going to pay you anything because we own the characters. We don't want a dependency on humans at this point.
But I did say the former thing, which is it's a way for them to get in front of it and have some kind of influence on how to control it versus it just gets away from them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why being part of it is really important to a certain degree, unless, you get Mickey Mouse doing something crazy. But Mickey Mouse, I think, went beyond the threshold where it almost became public domain.
Yes, I did.
So is it in public domain?
I don't think it is. I think
because
they were able
have
to
that
re-up
creative.
it.
Okay,
yeah,
crazy.
The last thing I'll say about this is that the last thing that Ben Thompson says is his big takeaway. Again, he's a creator of his own, but he's like an old-fashioned creator. He's a blogger, right, behind a paywall. And he says, one of the theses I have had about AI is a self-serving one. I believe that content like Stratecheries, which is the name of his blog, will become more and more valuable in an AI-dominated world, not less. Moreover, I think this thesis holds even if Gemini or ChatGPT becomes better at analysis than I am. The reason for this belief is because the fact that an LLM-derived AI is the ultimate manifestation of the individualization of content. I don't know if this is true, but it seems to me likely that LLMs have already generated more text than all of humanity ever has. The reason I cannot know this is the same reason that it hasn't left a mark. AI content is generated individually for each individual user of AI. This update, which is what he calls his posts, on the other hand, is being read by tens of thousands of people, and they are all reading the exact same thing as everybody else. This is, from one perspective, a bad thing. Wouldn't it be great to have my content perfectly customized for your interests? I think the more compelling angle, however, is that because my content is the same for everyone, it provides them a useful totem pole for discussion and community. If you and your coworker are both subscribers, you have something to talk about, confident that you are starting from the same update that you won't get from AI. So he's basically saying the more you post to your audience, if you have a community, the more that the human nature of it becomes the thing that is valuable. And this is something you have said over and over again, which is why I wanted to bring it up. And so as it comes to that, the power of authenticity of creators over the personalization of AI. Do you have anything to say about that?
The one thing with AI that makes it hard to succeed is as easily as you succeed, someone else can succeed. So as you create a personality or whatever, right? Like AI generated models, AI generated influencers, infinite amounts of those things can be created versus you. No one's going to recreate you. I guess this is why it's interesting that people are letting other people use their likeness to create things. And people are going to just connect with people. Because even if you connect with something that's fake, when you realize it is fake, something's lost. Mm. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, some of the magic goes away.
Well, they talk about there's going to be like one day, robot girlfriends or whatever. And I wonder if that's ever going to really become a thing because there's like a magic that you get when two humans connect, and not in a weird way. I'm just saying like a friendship or a conversation or an idea that just no AI will be able to create. Well, it's the same with content, I really believe. And this is why longer videos and live streams are going to be the way that happens. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, it does.
I'm always going to, it's not just because I'm biased to creators. I just believe that the reason AI is so successful is because of humans. So if that is the case, well, then humans, I think, will just be even more successful because they're going to think up a new way to be fresh. Like fashion is an interesting thing, you know, like I wonder if AI will ever create good fashion. I doubt it. That any kind of fashion it creates is just based off of its
previous training data.
I mean, you just made it so unsexy, like fashion. You know what I'm saying? Training data. When somebody's like, I've seen people draw fashion before. It's interesting. It's like they've this weird idea in their head, and they're just kind of, and it's
Vision.
like evolving as they're drawing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's organic. Versus AI, it kind of seems like it could be, but it's not. There's a reason it's doing it, right? Like data.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about going long, right, and going live, right? That is the big story of this year, and the fact that the streaming wars are kind of mostly settling down, right? We've got YouTube, we've got Netflix, we've got Disney. And is there anybody else?
Amazon Prime.
I always forget Amazon Prime because I never watch Amazon Prime. And you think you could argue Paramount, but really no. Paramount's probably going to be bought by somebody, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, well, isn't that part of the deal right now?
No, that they were the ones vying to buy Warner Bros.
Oh,
right?
got it.
But you know, Netflix and YouTube are the top two competitors in that space, right? And you know what? Netflix is truly trying to compete harder than ever with YouTube. And so I want to tell you a little bit of a story. And then we'll kind of get around to something that has happened recently. So all the way back in October, there was the big Netflix and Spotify deal that we talked about on this show, right? We don't know how big the deal was, but basically they took a bunch of the video podcasts that were on Spotify and they forced Spotify to take them down from YouTube and make them video exclusive to Netflix. So basically, they say it in the sense that it's like, okay, this is a Spotify and a Netflix exclusive podcast. It's not really. All of the other regular podcast apps do it. The only place that they force them to take it down from is YouTube, by the way. So Netflix is like, YouTube doesn't get the content that we have. They want to be, you know, all over the place. Of course, like we just talked about, on December 5th, there was the Netflix Warner Bros. Deal. So Netflix is really, really trying to acquire lots and lots of content. And then just last week on December 16th, this is from Emma Roth at The Verge. She says, on Tuesday, Netflix announced that it's teaming up with the radio giant iHeartMedia to add more than 15 video podcasts to its platform in the US next year, including My Favorite Murder, The Breakfast Club, Bobby Bones Presents the Bobbycast, and more. Under the deal, iHeartMedia video podcasts will no longer appear in their entirety on YouTube, the company spokesperson Jen Powers confirmed to The Verge. Netflix will also get access to new podcast episodes along with select episodes from each show's library. So Netflix just continues. They're buying more and more and more content because guess who they're competing with?
YouTube.
YouTube.
What's an interesting take on why Netflix won't win or even get close to competing against YouTube?
Tell me.
User interface.
Why is that?
YouTube's whole user interface is made to watch content on the phone or on the TV or whatever device. It's just so normal. Like it started in a browser, and then when they had a, like a phone app, it was just, everything is made for that. Netflix, I don't know how many people are watching Netflix on the phone.
Geez, we should look up those numbers for next week's show, but that is a really interesting question. I have no idea.
So whenever I watch, first off, there's issues on using Netflix on my phone because I have lots of kids and different sign-ins. So I've been booted out. Never booted out of YouTube.
Yeah.
So there's even just like how it functions. So it's interesting. I always say whatever's the easiest to use and has less friction almost always wins, as long as the value's on the other side of that whole user interface experience. So if you have a huge library, but it's hard to get in there and it's kind of janky or whatever, I've never liked the Netflix app personally.
Interesting.
And it didn't matter because I watch it on the TV, right? So
That's true.
And now they are probably still trying to win on the TV, but that's just what's interesting about YouTube. It's good across all devices. So it's like, will they ever? And the reason I bring this up is you're saying these podcasts.
Yeah.
Podcasts is something you do consume on the phone.
That's a great point.
So even like searching for content is so different on a Netflix. I don't see a place where people have the behavior to go to Netflix to consume a podcast. This is why the biggest story in terms of podcasts was Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
He left YouTube to go to Spotify, and then I think 2 years later, he re-signed with Spotify, but still was able to upload to YouTube after that. I think it was on both sides. It wasn't just him saying, I need to be on YouTube. I bet you they're like, hey, we could see in the data or whatever. So I feel like, I wonder it's going to be like similar to the ninja guy that left Twitch. What was that platform that Microsoft owned? Matrix, or it was like, anyways, he ended up signing $100 million deal. That live stream platform shut down, and he goes back to YouTube and Twitch.
I know.
This is what I'm seeing. This is what it seems just like the same thing with Netflix right now.
It totally is. I will say, I think Netflix is a better position than Spotify. Spotify was kind of doing it out of a little bit of desperation. They had a little bit of swagger when they were doing it, but it was never really going to work because Spotify was never a video platform. This is more native to Netflix to have videos, right? Be the things that they go. And so, I mean, the bottom line is exactly what you're saying, which is that all of these deals, what's the similarity between all of them? They're acquiring library content. They want more and more content on Netflix because they need more and more content to keep you watching Netflix, right? By the way, they're also an advertising company now, so they need more and more content to keep you watching, to keep advertising to you as well. And so actually, neutrally, I don't know if you have it, but we have a clip from the former CEO of Blockbuster who posted this to Reels, where he's talking about why Netflix is pushing so hard for this. So neutrally, can we cue that up and play it?
Those movies is to acquire Warner Brothers and therefore get HBO. Now, why is Paramount aggressively
neutrally, I don't know if you
fighting
can start
this?
that back from the beginning. I think
After a deal was struck for Netflix to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount has now launched a hostile bid for Warner.
So what's behind all of this, and why is Netflix trying to buy a major studio like Warner Brothers? Well, it's not really for the movie production business as much as it is to gain access to more and more subscription content. You see, Netflix to survive has to have content, and HBO is one of the largest providers of subscription content. They've secured this content exclusively for HBO, and so the only way Netflix can access those movies is to acquire Warner Brothers and therefore get HBO.
Okay,
now,
you can pause it there neutrally.
I wish somebody had asked him, can you comment on YouTube and what you think about their content library? Because that's fascinating. First off, that it's a Blockbuster CEO, the former CEO.
Yes.
And then two, he knows so much about that industry because they kind of, in a way, had to do a similar thing, totally different kind of format in terms of like how you pay for the content, because we were paying per video
or per rental.
I think at the end there was like a deal, like unlimited rentals. But then now he's talking about this digital world and streaming, and that he can see it in a way that we can't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily 100% agree with him. I think that Netflix is going to lean into the studio side more than a lot of people think, including Hollywood, by the way. We've talked about it on the show. But his comment about the library is undoubtedly true. If the library wasn't there, Netflix wouldn't be doing this deal, and they need that library to keep people subscribed. So he's 100% right about that. Neutrally, can we play the back half of that video as well, which talks about Paramount?
Why is Paramount aggressively fighting this deal? Paramount and the other major motion picture studios don't want the subscription business to continue to grow and grow and grow. Why? Because most of the studios make their money on the cinematic release, and it used to be in the DVD window because that was more or less the pay-per-view window. That's one of the things that they're trying to protect, to prevent the whole industry going to subscription, because here's the difference. Subscription basically is the all-you-can-eat buffet. And if you make a $500 million movie, you want to be able to, and almost have to, monetize that movie through the theatrical window and then hopefully the pay-per-view window before it gets tossed into the all-you-can-eat buffet. It's basic economics. Paramount's trying to protect the integrity of future movie growth and development. Netflix is trying to grow their base of subscription offerings. It's a classic battle. Be anxious to see who wins.
Yeah, and again, I don't 100% agree with the take that Netflix is going to kill the theater here, but his point still stands, and I love the idea of the all-you-can-eat buffet because I know Benji, I know exactly what you're thinking. What if there was an all-you-can-eat buffet that was free? What if that existed? Guess what it does? YouTube. YouTube is that.
Well, actually, my initial thoughts when he said the buffet was Las Vegas. The buffets, Vegas was known for cheap buffets. Until it was known for amazing buffets and then like high-end buffets. I always went to the high-end because I love food, but I didn't want to eat like 10 plates. I wanted to have a whole bunch of different dishes and maybe eat 2 or 3 plates. Definitely got full. But you know what happened to all those high-end buffets?
Really?
It's not as much of a thing. A lot of those buffets were replaced by eateries or like food halls.
I had no idea.
Again, economics. Everything had to be luxury, right? Because that's a brand or whatever. And then it got so competitive. Every single hotel had their grand buffet or whatever. And there's not that many that kind of survive, or there's some that went off the way. So you go to some of these hotels now, they don't have a buffet. They just have a fancy food court. Well, what do? You pay individually for everything that you eat.
Yeah.
It's just the economics that kind of works. Well, I think I don't know this for a fact, but I bet you buffets were a cost to them, not a profit to them.
Oh, I totally.
It was a way
believe
to
that.
get you into the hotel. So when things get tight or whatever, that's the thing about Netflix. If he's using the buffet example, I think it's the same thing. They're always having to pay to fill their buffet.
Yeah.
And to your point, YouTube is not only a free buffet. I think we use this analogy. People show up with amazing food.
Yeah.
Like it might not be like the Gordon Ramsay, filet mignon. What's his dish? The beef Wellington. Yeah. But it is like still a ribeye steak that's perfectly seared and it's got like some like mushroom cream sauce. I make that, and that's literally on YouTube. And that's you can't compete. It's like impossible to compete. So that's why even with Netflix slowly creeping up, because they do have a subscription-based model, and yes, they're getting a bigger library. Well, man, just give YouTube some time. The library is not only going to get bigger, but it's also going to get higher in quality. Even though I'm a huge advocate for people using their phone, DJI Osmo, and vlogging in a very realistic, casual type of format, I still know there's going to be Mr. Beast of the world. There's still going to be short films and eventually full-on feature films because the distribution is there and it makes sense. And we're not talking just on the AdSense. I'm talking about branding and selling products, brand deals, and other kinds of opportunities. So it's like the Wild West and the gold rush frontier that always keeps expanding, and you could just be like somebody with a pickaxe and not even have a horse and walk out there and make something of yourself. Versus Netflix, it's just like New York City. There's a limitation, and the buildings have to get taller, and it's harder and harder, And then to the point about the movies, it's funny. It's like I wonder what creators think about this rant, like us talking about it, but I'll like tell you exactly what a creator should think. That world that was built on kind of a foundation of gatekeepers and tradition and big studios and just like so many moving parts, they're scared of Netflix because all that gets ruined. And what do you have? You just have a whole bunch of people that know how to do different things that now have to go find something to do versus before they were like Avengers Assemble and then you get Top Gun Maverick, like these amazing things. But the economics aren't there. You're out of luck. For the creator, it just means there's a reason Netflix needs this content because you are so good at creating content that YouTube doesn't have to pay for nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like the whole like pay for a movie or show, I was thinking a few years ago that would become more common. No, it doesn't even show up in my feed no more.
On YouTube, you mean?
On YouTube. It used to show up a lot more often. It's never showing up. I rented like 2 movies before on YouTube and that was it. And so there's a reason for it. They don't need it.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. That said, I think that we're going to start to see a little bit of a convergence here in some ways. Like one example that you talked about is like having a good cook come to these free buffets and cook you food, right? One example of that is we talked about it last week. There are literally old-fashioned studio documentary production companies that are just posting their content free on YouTube because they have the rights to do it, right? There are the Creator Camp. We brought them up tons on this show. Their movie, Two Sleepy People, their plan is to release it on YouTube, right? We could go on and on and on. There are all these amazing artists and people and creators and influencers that are all coalescing and doing it for free on YouTube. And guess what? There are other things coming to YouTube for that they are most likely paying for, which are the Oscars. So there are two strategies, which is one, the library strategy we just talked to, and the other strategy is kind of the live stuff, the news stuff, the topical stuff, the stuff that is fresh. It's coming right off the press. Award shows are like the perfect example of that. So let's talk new and topical. Here's Lucas Shaw from Bloomberg, who broke this story. This actually is all the way back in March. So at the beginning of this year, here was the news. The organization, they're talking about the Academy who run the Oscars, initiated negotiations with Disney last year about re-upping the deal that is worth more than $100 million a year. So again, Disney through ABC is paying $100 million a year to host the Oscars. Yet the exclusive negotiating window between the two sides lapsed without a new agreement, according to several people familiar with the matter. The relationship between Disney and the Academy is still strong. Disney's ABC has aired the Oscars for almost 50 years and will continue to do so until at least 2028. Yet Disney doesn't want to increase the size of the deal, and the Academy does. Ergo, the Academy has made it clear that it would like to test the market. So that was in March. Come August, here's exactly what it's also Lucas Shaw again says. Most of the companies vying to be the next home of the Oscars won't surprise you. Walt Disney's ABC has aired the show for almost 5 decades. Comcast NBC Universal is hungry for more live events. Netflix is Netflix. Amazon is spending a lot of money on live programming and original movies, and Paramount CBS just lost the Grammys. But there is one surprise: YouTube. The Google-owned video site has inquired about buying the rights to the Academy Awards, according to two people familiar with the matter. YouTube has demonstrated a growing interest in live events, acquiring the rights to the NFL Sunday Ticket and bidding over other live sports. Just this week, it crowed about how many people watched the New Heights podcast live thanks to Taylor Swift. Supplanting ABC and Disney as the official home of the Academy Awards, Hollywood's most prestigious awards show, would be a huge statement from YouTube and a shock to the industry. YouTube was considered a thieving pariah not too long ago. It would also be very loud, which is the whole point. Shifting the program to YouTube would generate a lot of attention to a show that has been losing relevance each year. YouTube is the single most watched video platform in the world, and the king of all media. It could deliver eyeballs and offer a giant platform. And that doesn't mean YouTube will get the rights. The show will continue to air on ABC through at least 2028. And then just last week, our member of the team, Carla, sent us a message. I can't believe we weren't tracking this story, by the way. So thank you to Carla for sending us the thing that I think was in her Instagram feed, which is this, December 17th, just less than a week ago, saying the Academy Awards will move to Alphabet Inc.'s YouTube service in 2029, ending more than half a century on the ABC network and more than 70 years on broadcast TV. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced Wednesday that the streaming platform will take over when the show organization's contract with Walt Disney Co.'s ABC Networks expires. The deal with YouTube runs through 2033, the party said in a statement. The annual ceremony was first televised by NBC in March 1953, according to the Academy. It moved to ABC for 10 years, starting in 1961, back to NBC from 1971 to 75, and ABC has aired the program since 1976, and now it's YouTube's. So, I've spoke plenty on this, but if there's one takeaway, it is that broadcast television is officially dead. This is the toll bell ringing. Yeah.
Well, there's two things I would want to say. Number one, YouTube has always had a FOMO problem. So ABC is this prestigious, well-known kind of media outlet that I can't even imagine the Oscars not having ABC somewhere in the logo, right? Mm-hmm. Or somewhere in the show.
Yeah.
YouTube wants their little triangle to be there because they're never part of the party. It's like they're so massively successful and they've got this massive platform, but they are still in a way, even though they're getting taken seriously more and more, there's still the digital platform. There's still like this place where you upload videos. Anybody can upload videos versus Hollywood. Not anybody can be part of it. There's like some prestige there. There is gatekeepers and they want to be a part of it. And the second reason they would do it is because they probably got it on a discount compared to how much it cost 10 or 20, definitely 30 years ago, because not as many people are watching. Because this is the thing. They don't need the Oscars to get eyeballs from the Oscars. What do I do right now? I haven't watched the Oscars in years. I remember the days where it was a thing. You would watch them all and you'd see like these grand speeches and you see somebody win their first Oscar and it's emotional. And there was always like news pieces until YouTube pops up and I just go to the exact award I want to see. I want to see the exact guy that won. I even just get my recap from Google, right? Like I just want the quick version because there's so many options out there. So to me, it's like inevitable. ABC and the Oscars, they just were losing relevancy, but they still kept that kind of like, we're so elegant and we're so relevant and we're like the place to be. You know what's crazy? The most relevant, not relevant, the thing that made them get a lot of attention was Will Smith.
Yeah, seriously.
And, the Best Picture award. I mean, that's it. Everything else, and we all know if we ever watch it, the sound award or the audio. I mean, just so many things that you didn't really care about. That's why you only watch the last hour. And the whole show got so massive and such a production that it's not practical in this new digital age where people are watching 30-second videos.
I mean, speak for yourself. I'm a huge film nerd, so I watch the whole thing and care about all those little awards. But I agree with you that most people don't care. But here's the important thing, Benji, which is that the number one reason this is a big deal is because it shows you, remember we talked about this last week, my theory is that YouTube is the new broadcast TV on its own. And that Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime, all of the paid streaming services, they're the new cable, right? So guess what? Who is like the kings of broadcast TV? ABC and NBC. The two stations, by the way, that broadcast the Academy Awards for, I think they said 70 plus years at this point. Guess what? That run of TV, 70 plus years, is probably a pretty accurate statement. What does it mean now that it's moving to streaming? Well, suddenly YouTube is the new broadcast. I'm just saying that I think that this shows us just how big the TV opportunity is. And the big takeaway for creators here is that they should be creating content for the TV, right? This is the biggest opportunity in the history of YouTube. You can, as you said, anyone can upload videos. It's kind of like, oh yeah, maybe that's something to look down on. That's actually a huge opportunity for the people who aren't, or for people who have stopped, or for people who aren't uploading anymore, right? That means that you can reach the same audience as the people who are watching the Oscars, by the way. Just pointing that out. You can scale from a much smaller production all the way to the Oscars, and potentially, if you want to go to cable, get sold to Netflix, because Netflix is buying everybody up left and right, apparently, right? And so to me, this shows you just how big the opportunity actually is and why you should get started now in terms of making content for the TV. And we think that the best way to get started making content for the TV is by vlogging, which right now there's that big opportunity, and in your ability to visit Vlogging Academy to learn our vlogging method. Ben,
Yeah.
you have something to add?
Oh yeah, I agree. You said this last week, and it was kind of a revelation for me. I knew that you're starting to create content for people watching YouTube on the TV. I didn't think about it about broadcast television, but it makes sense because what do we say? I think YouTube made a mistake if they were able to see, 20 years in the future by calling your channel a channel.
Yeah, I agree.
They should have called it a show, right? Because there is no more channel per se. There's just an algorithm and there's a search bar and you get to go to whatever you want to watch. Oftentimes it's a show. So I think, and this is actually beyond Vlogging Academy. Obviously I've been vlogging for a long time. I teach other people how to start their vlog channels and get views on their vlogs. But beyond vlogging and longer content, I think, kind of echoing what you're saying, you should structure your YouTube content like a show.
Yes.
A bingeable show. Even if it only comes out once a week, once every other week, you should still think of it as like a show. Like good example is The Office. no matter where you fall in the whole grand scheme of The Office, whatever season, you know you're going to get a predictable product every time you watch it. There's going to be a laugh. Michael's going to say something uncomfortable. There's going to be like some crazy fight between Jim and Dwight.
Yeah.
So again, expected value. In a way, that's the show always delivering on each episode. Obviously, they have stories that bridge it, which is a whole nother conversation, right? That's how you get obsessed with it. That's how you fall in love with the characters. But your YouTube video should become part of a greater show. Each video or vlog is an episode. Now, that doesn't seem very organic, but the more you go into it, the more, and what have I said? I now have a number for my vlogs. Everyone I was asked, how long should my videos be that I upload to YouTube? I said, as long as they need to be. But now I say 30 minutes because that's about how much time you have to keep someone's attention, because we schedule our days in half-hour segments, if not in hour segment. So the next number is 60. What does 30 and 60 represent? A show, episode of a show, either half hour or full hour. So this whole idea of like you should create a show for broadcast television, it's because YouTube is the next television, and people's behaviors are going to be based off it. The one difference is now, it goes back to the first point, you can search for the exact thing you want, but the expectation from the viewer is still going to be the same. And it doesn't matter what generation. That's what's kind of interesting, because guess what? This new generation, they're watching Love Island.
Yeah.
Still a show.
Yeah.
Still got episodes, right? Older generation, they were watching The Love Boat. Same thing, right? They got episodes. They got a show. They got seasons and a show. It's all like Donkey Kong. And the difference is now you don't have to go to Hollywood to be part of that industry. You can do it from the comfort of your home. And it doesn't have to be highly produced. It can be very like amateur hour, more casual. And that's why vlogging is perfect for it. And it's easier to vlog a 30-minute video than to produce like high production editing a 30-minute video.
Yeah, because the opportunity is so big, it makes the opportunity also big for the newcomers, right? For the people who are just getting started as well. And so if you're looking to take Benji's method, where he teaches you how to turn your vlogs into a show that will find success on YouTube, the best place to go is vloggingacademy.com, where you can learn a lot more about Benji's new vlogging method, where he takes those principles of TV and applies them to vlogs, so that way you can find success in the new broadcast TV. Again, thanks to our students of Vlogging Academy who make this show possible. I don't know, do you guys have a little bit more time? I know we're running a little bit long.
Yeah, I wanted to cover this last story because I am going to go look at Christmas lights tonight.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I have time.
Yeah, so the last story, but I guess I don't know what you mean by that. The one that we talked about beforehand?
Right here, this guy right here.
Sure, we can skip ahead to that. Let me do one other quick hit
let's
first.
Do it. I'm not in a rush.
There is a big deal, and I'm gonna be like the boy who cried wolf here, because there's another TikTok ban deal. I don't know if you heard about this.
Oh no!
But on December 18th, so just a couple of days ago, TikTok signed a deal. This is Sarah Fisher at Axios. Signed a deal to divest its U.S. entity into a joint venture controlled by American investors, per an internal memo seen by Axios. The agreement is set to close on January 22nd, so next month, per an internal memo set by CEO Shou Chu. Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi-based MGX will collectively own 45% of the U.S. entity, which will be named TikTok USDS Joint Venture LLC, and nearly one-third of the company will be held by affiliates of existing ByteDance investors, and nearly 20% will be retained by ByteDance. So just wanted to bring it up that Netflix has another ban deal, and this time it seems like they actually have a buyer.
You're getting it mixed up. You mean TikTok?
TikTok.
You said Netflix.
I know. We talked so much about Netflix.
Yeah, I have no thoughts on it. It's always becoming like a huge story, and then it's nothing, and then we had the ban happen and people freaked out because it wasn't loading up right, and they came back within like 24 hours or whatever. So my thought is it's not going to become a thing until it is a thing, and even then it sounds like it's going to be the same thing, just different ownership.
Yeah.
And yeah, the algorithm might not be as good, or it's not connected to China and the government or whatever. To me, it doesn't matter, Mal. I don't even care because, again, if you're watching this, it's on YouTube, first off. And two, we're talking about long-form content. If anything, TikTok has shown they want to get on the television. They want creators to make longer pieces of content. And now I've seen like a horizontal video function on TikTok that fits perfectly with your phone. You still have to turn it, but you can watch like proper horizontal videos on there. So if anything, they're in the position of FOMO. Before YouTube was, and they did shorts, successfully launched it. Does it compete against TikTok at the same level? I don't know. Like I heard like the hours consumed is it's a pretty big deal. To me, I think TikTok's best days are behind them. That's my personal thought.
Hot take.
Because Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts has gotten so good, and it's an option now. And there's only bad press. Literally, this is a good example. There's only bad press about TikTok. Really no good press, honestly.
That's a great point. And the ban is just one piece of that, right? But speaking of bans, let's talk about the DJI ban really quick. I just have a quick update for you. So today is the day. Today is the day of the DJI ban, right? We talked about this a lot on the show. We talked about this last week. But let me just quote from Jay Peters at The Verge, who says, the Federal Communications Commission has banned new drones made in foreign countries from being imported into the U.S. unless the Department of Defense or the Department of Homeland Security recommends them. If you already own a drone, this is the important piece, made outside the U.S., you'll still be able to use it according to FCC's fact sheet. Drones or drone components can be removed from the covered list if the DoD or DHS make a specific determination for the FCC that it does not pose unacceptable risks. Basically, what this means right now is that things that have FCC clearance will actually continue to be able to be sold. So the Osmo 3 should be able to be sold. It hasn't been added to this list. Actually, the Osmo 4 also got clearance, and so it should also be able to be sold once it comes out, potentially in January.
Oh, in January.
But you never know. Basically, just like TikTok, DJI is facing a similar fate, right? There's lots of concern about it from our lawmakers, and we don't necessarily know what its future is. I think in the past, Benji, you've talked about saying, hey, we should have you should just buy the Osmo 3. You shouldn't even wait for the Osmo 4. Don't even risk not being able to get it if there is a ban.
Yeah, I'm actually looking it up as we speak to see if, first off, it's $679 on the Creator Bundle on Amazon, but you cannot get it right now at Costco.
Really?
And it was cheaper there. They probably just stopped buying it altogether. You cannot get the DJI, which kind of sucks. I wish I had bought it when it was there because it got pretty cheap. It got back to $500. So, man, interesting. So that means... And $679 seems kind of expensive.
It is, but with the bundle, it sort of fluctuates a lot. I mean, the Osmo has always been known to fluctuate in price a lot, I feel like.
Anyways, I'm glad I bought mine. And the Extra Muse, though, is a cheap $419.
It's kind of amazing, really.
Yeah. So, I mean, it like the TikTok ban, it's like when it happens, it happens. When you go to the website, wherever you buy your Osmo and can't buy it, that's the thing. And my whole thing was more about the updates. If you already have it, does it limit the updates, the software updates, or do you think you can use them?
Yeah, to me, it sounds like there hasn't been a lot of determination around what the firmware updates are going to look like, whether it's going to be allowed or not. I would guess that it would be hard to do. It probably,
but you don't need them, right?
In terms of the firmware updates.
Yeah, you don't need the firmware updates. I never firmware updated my Canon G7X.
Yeah, I think that it'll just stay frozen in time with what it is. You just hope that there's no bugs in there. But I mean, honestly, the Osmo software has been so good and rock solid. It might be a good thing if they freeze it in time. And not necessarily saying that that's for real, but...
Oh yeah, I don't know. That's probably not accurate. I felt like it's more hardware than software, but there is a lot of software involved with the Osmo compared to like a Canon G7X that's buttons and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just beyond the buttons too, even like the image processing pipeline in terms of the gimbal and things like that requires software. Everything requires software to some degree. But maybe we can end the show with this, which is what you were talking about, Benji. There was a message that you actually sent me on Instagram that had a Instagram reel attached to it. And I watched through it, and it was a video of the YouTube creator Sprometheus. And actually, I had watched Sprometheus a little bit during, I think, the pandemic, towards the tail end of the pandemic, because I was getting into coffee, and that was kind of his niche at the time. He was kind of the guy who was like very out there, blunt, opinionated about things, a little gruff in the way that he approached things. So he had like a strong branded personality as well. And he had hundreds and hundreds of videos. He had a podcast, and he uploaded this video just in the last week or so that you sent me. And it was something that he said that he was basically ending the show. He wasn't going to post to YouTube anymore because he had burned out. So I texted you. I said, you sent this to me on Instagram, but I'm going to reply here because I think that these types of announcements would be a great thing to cover on the show. In your message, you had mentioned one word, and I assume the word you mean is burnout, or an angle on burnout.
I asked you, there's one word that's really important for creators to hear from this guy's message, and you guessed the word.
Burnout. And then you said, nope, but I'll tell you the word on the show. So neutrally, can we play the clip, and Benji will highlight the word for us.
After nearly 8 years, 500 plus videos, roughly 250,000 followers, and 70 million views across multiple platforms, I am taking an indefinite hiatus from Sprometheus. Now, to a lot of my viewers, this may seem rather abrupt, but actually, I've been considering this departure for some time now. And over the last couple of years, I have tried to do some certain things to try to mitigate this, like posting less often, changing the types of content I've been doing. But really, all of that has sort of just delayed the inevitable. So, of course, burnout, like many YouTubers before me, and of course, many YouTubers after me, is the key factor. But it's built on multiple different pillars. And I think the ones that stand out the most is, social media algorithms, general influencer culture, and also just the culture at large, which has made this process of making videos and doing what I do just a lot less fun. And in a lot of cases, at least from my personal perspective, the coffee content I've been seeing on my timeline lately has felt uninspired. Copy and paste. And
do you know what the word is now?
I have a guess. Should I go for it?
Yeah.
Fun.
100%. Well, it's interesting because the word you brought up was burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Creator burnout almost always is a result of lack of fun. Now, there's different reasons, right? You could have some family turmoil, some personal challenges, maybe finances are tight, maybe you're not getting as many views, your performance is going down, algorithm changes, maybe even just like the relevance of your content, tons, okay? But then the question is, how do people like my wife sustain almost 20 years of being a creator? And you even said earlier today, it's still amazing that she edits all her own videos. Yeah. Most creators, and entrepreneurs that are creators, but also, building a business will scale up. And that's one of the first things they delegate, including myself, right? I don't edit my content. I have an editor. But why is it that someone like Judy can sustain what she's doing? It's because she's genuinely having fun. She's creating content around the things that I say crank her wheel, the things that she's interested in. And so it's interesting. This guy, he said different things, and he also doesn't this is something I disagree with. He's like, disagrees with the type of content that's out there. He doesn't want to play to that. Well, what he's telling me is he doesn't want to play that game, which is fine, but it can't be a complaint of why you're burnt out and you're quitting, right? Because guess what? There's different games you can play. The thing is, when you have fun doing something, you'll do it forever, even if you don't get paid. Now, it's not a way to make a living and pay for the bills and, support your family. Yeah. But it is so important for sustainability. And the reason I wanted to talk about this for creators, is for anybody, is because I find the ones that have continued to do this will also get through the hard times, overcome the challenges, the ups and downs of an algorithm, or even just shifts in the industry, financial, or your genre is not as relevant. Your performance going down is when you're having fun. Those people that have fun. And the number one reason why most creators that quit because they're burnt out is because there is lack of fun. I've never attributed the success of a creator across the board or the lack of success to just one word. And it's so cheesy. the reason I came up with this idea, when I say came up with this idea, it's not like groundbreaking. It's not like I own
But it
this.
stood out to you.
Yeah, what stood out to me was whenever I'm helping creators start a new channel, how many creators, when they're starting, would ask me, what should I film content around? It's like, well, first off, I would think you would already know. Why would I tell you what to film content around? And then, of course, I get into it. They're like, oh, well, but I want to do so many different things. I'm like, okay, cool. Then, I mean, I would just say it so casual. Like, what do you have fun doing? What is it that you look forward to doing on the weekend? So what are you talking about? Yeah, like what is it that you would do for free forever, even if you didn't get paid? They're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. See, most people, when they start a YouTube channel, they're thinking financially. They're thinking success, a business. They're thinking doing this full time. All valid. But it might not sustain you through those hard times. Versus someone like my wife and so many of those early day creators. You know who else I think is kind of like this in a way is Philip DeFranco, even though he has experienced some burnout. I actually believe he loves what he does. He genuinely loves it, right? Because he's been around now for 20 years. And as creators become successful and make a lot of money and live their dream life, other people want to do that too. So they do the things to replicate that, but it's not necessarily down the path that is most fun for them. Now, ironically, guess where you actually do this is with vlogging, right?
Yeah.
What makes vlogging kind of interesting is that you get to vlog your life. You already get to create and document content around what it is that you do in your life, and you get paid to do it. And that's why I say it's like it is fun to do it, like vlogging your life and getting paid to do it, versus the people that all burn out. They're doing it probably for the wrong reasons. When I say wrong reasons, at certain times they were the right reasons because it made you famous, it made you successful, made you money. But then when none of those were happening, then there was no incentive to do it. But if you start with an emphasis on what is fun, what would you still want to do in 10 years from now, you can have a lot more sustainability. I'm not saying the money part shouldn't be part of the equation. I'm just saying it should be a lesser than what it is for the normal creator out there. And when he said it, I'm sure I think that's what he was saying. Like, I'm not having as much fun anymore.
Totally.
And guess what? When I'm coaching creators that are on the brink of burnout, I say, go do something fun. Like literally, even if it's not your niche, like create content around that. Almost always when they're closest to burnout, they're also the farthest away from what they started doing that they loved. It just became something. You say something I think that's really important. Creators fall back into entrepreneurship. They never wanted to have a business. They never wanted to manage a team and all those kind of things. So fun, it is way undervalued in terms of being a creator. And guess what? You now have to have fun doing this because it's harder than ever in certain ways because of the algorithm, because of AI, because there's so much competition. But if you find the thing that you have fun doing and you can document that on camera, you can do literally like 2-3 hour live streams. I did a live stream today of like cooking. And the only thing that stopped me from doing 2 or 3 hours, because Nuclear, who's running this show right now, knows for a fact I would go 3, 4, 6 hours with them and do it, was the fact that I was doing this podcast. But if I'm thinking, hey, how do I really blow up? I'm just doing the thing I'm having. Don't get me wrong. I actually have fun doing this.
Yeah.
I mean, what's crazy is I think there's maybe like 5 to 10 people watching this at any given time. Why can I do this? Because it's fun for me, even having one person come on here, leave a comment, or DM me afterwards or call me and say, dude, that thing that you said, that was exactly what I need to hear. And I love that. And that's why I can kind of do it forever. So takeaway is this guy is quitting for different reasons. But he said something that I think even him in his mind, he didn't understand the significance of it. And I'm looking at it from perspective of not just him, but literally hundreds of creators I've either talked to or observed that have burnt out. And it's almost always the result of lack of fun. And the ones that are most successful that have been around, they always find the fun in the grind, in the challenges, in the whole process of being a creator, which isn't always easy. And if you have enough fun, guess what? You wake up excited the next day to do it, even if it's kind of like a shitty experience.
If you want to find the most fun way to make content. You should check out vloggingacademy.com, where you can learn more about the new vlogging method and the biggest opportunity in the history of YouTube. Thanks to our students of Vlogging Academy who helped make this show possible. Happy holidays to everybody, and we'll see you next week.